Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan
I think entire India today is talking about influencers, Sharan. More importantly, a very specific influencer, uh, because of some comments he made on a show hosted by another influencer, right? So, are we trying to ride on that popularity?
I was more thinking of him as a podcast brothers. The entire controversy is bad. It's just stupid. But ironically, what happened was I was watching that. Then I thought of a similar influencer called Raj Shamani. And I remember him coming on another show talking about how he had his friend manufacture something. He labeled it, sold it on Amazon and made bucket loads of money.
Okay.
In that episode, he did not mention that he came from an FMCG family. So he's mentioned that on a different episode. Not like he was hiding it, but just curious how a lot of the influencers are starting brands. So that is my train of thought, which landed me on this topic today.
Okay. So that's how you've landed on brands launched by influencers. Okay.
Yes.
So tell me more. Are you saying that influencers should launch brands? Or are you saying that influencers should not become entrepreneurs?
Putting me on the spot.
Huh.
But it's not that simple.
Okay.
But if you force me to pick, I will say most influencers are terrible at running their own businesses and building brands.
Okay. So you've already taken a stance. And whatever influencers, if we had any influencer who was planning to listen to this episode, I'm sure they would have dropped off by now. But for the rest of our listeners, we know that a lot of influencers are trying to ride on this bandwagon. In fact, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who have started becoming influencers now. The
reverse is also happening. Yeah.
Reverse is also happening. But let's stick to influencers becoming entrepreneurs. Now, some have succeeded, some have not. So I'm not sure. And therefore, because you've come with a very specific point of view, why do you say so?
After putting me in the spot, now you make that the anchor of the show. Lovely. See, but let's clarify the two models, right? One is influencers running businesses, as in them creating brands. So you look at Prajakta, I think Prajakta Koli created her own brand called Merch Garage.
Okay. Yeah.
Bhuvan Bam has Utopia. So these are brands created by these content creators / influencers. And even Hrithik Roshan has got HRX, which is my favorite, which we'll come back to later. And there are brands which leverage influencers, like brands that you and I worked on. So when I was on Oreo, we had Ranveer Kapoor. There is Kiara Advani who does Limca. And I'm not sure about the association between Koli and Wrong. That also seems to be being run by the business team and Koli, and not necessarily Koli doing things there.
I think there's this space where a lot of the influencers buy stake into businesses. And I think they pay some, and for the balance stake, they become the endorser also.
Yes. So that's the difference, right? So if I'm an influencer and I'm looking to leverage my influencer or content creation equity by launching other products and services, I'm an influencer trying to build other brands. But if I'm running another business and I get influencers on board to promote my brands, that's a business run.
That's a simple brand promotion.
That is it. Yeah.
Okay. So clear. I think clear in my head. So now, as our listeners might be thinking about this, you become an influencer because there is a certain cohort of people who likes to listen to you, who sort of trusts you or goes along with your ideology.
Right.
So logically, it should seem easier to run a brand.
So there is this difference, right? So there is a following, or rather a viewer, an audience versus a fan.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is this concept of 1,000 fans, right? We've spoken about that in the show.
Yeah.
So not every follower is a fan. So they might have trust. They might agree with some points of view. So the short answer to what you're asking is yes and no. They have built trust and reach among audience, but that trust that they think they have is not enough to convert to sales and make good business out of it. And that is why we see a lot of cracks in these businesses that are being started up by influencers and celebrities for that matter.
Yeah. Okay. But I would want to probe a bit more, Sharan. See, a lot of these influencers are able to earn significant money from their YouTube content. Right now, people have some amount of likedness as well as trust, and hence all of that is getting consumed. Yeah, there are similar examples. There is Mr. Beast. He launched Feastables, right? And he has launched a bunch of other brands as well. Then Logan Paul launched Prime
Yeah.
and bunch of other things as well. Now, most of these have became fairly sizable, right? So there is something in this formula of these guys commanding, good trust, pull, etc. So it should run.
See, there's a difference between trust and hype, right? When they have such influence, they manage to create hype, and that gets
FOMO.
people to, yeah, FOMO, and that gets people to try the product. I know my nephew in the UK insisted that he wanted a bottle of Prime, and his father, my cousin, bought it for some 40 pounds or something. And apparently,
I bought it
price
for
had fallen.
$250. I bought it for $250 for both my sons. They consumed one bottle and then they preserved that empty bottle. And then one of my friends was coming from US. They specifically instructed for them to get a couple of bottles of Prime.
Empty bottles or full bottles?
Full bottles got transported from US to India, and they were treasured for a fair amount of time, even after the bottles were consumed.
That's what happens, right? For the young kids, that hype and FOMO, you kind of become social currency for them. So that they have these bottles. And what are these bottles? Nothing. Now, the problem is that never lasts. And the bigger the celebrity or influencer you are, you end up getting traction at that scale. But that also fizzles out at the same speed. Look at it, I think UK, they had some 48% decline in business, Prime. And what was bought once for 40 pounds are now retailing at some 2-3 pounds. So that's the initial buzz that happened. So see, why even go that far, right? Ranveer Singh launched Super You. And he, in a way, was trying to replicate the success of Mr. Beast by promoting it and pushing it with his own brand. But it doesn't really work, right? These brands survive because the brands that work survive because they actually solve a problem. These are just people launching products to leverage their existing equity, which may or may not be in a relatable domain. And therefore it fizzles out because when the hype fizzles out, the business also fizzles out.
Fair. I like that point about solving a problem versus using your popularity to, sell anything. Might or might not have the right to win.
So
Fair.
I'll actually go deeper on that.
Okay.
Now, Hrithik Roshan's, so the HRX. Today, people who go to this cult fit and talk about HRX, they don't necessarily associate Hrithik Roshan with it anymore. I mean, when my wife told me about HRX, I said, that's Hrithik Roshan's, right? She said, oh, really? I didn't know, but it's fun. So it is able to stand on its own. They made fitness accessible, almost like a personal trainer being accessible to the common man is what HRX and this cult fit have done. And Eat Fit. So people almost trust Eat Fit to not give them unhealthy food. And that is working. Similarly, everybody talks about a brand started by celebrities in the US, right? But the one that's really worked is the one by Rihanna, Fenty Beauty, because it caters to women of color and caters to them with high quality beauty products for women of color. And that is solving a problem. And that is what makes the difference.
Okay, fair. Usually, when we speak about marketing, Sharan, and we've repeatedly said this, that when you start a new business, you try to find your PMF, right? Product market fit. And is that first, whatever, 100 consumers that pay for your product and consume it. And then you try and expand, etc.
Right.
Now, when you were talking about Prime,
Right.
I think what you meant was that initially, because of their hype, a lot of people tried the product and it didn't matter if it had a PMF or not, because it was being driven by FOMO. And the 48% decrease that you spoke about came by because the product did not have a right to win. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is what I was playfully calling with another friend of mine, the IPMF. It's the illusion of PMF because you have so many early adopters.
Yeah.
And you believe your brand has got traction.
Yeah.
But because it's got no gravity, You know that's nothing behind it, just a facade. It's going to fall off as fast as it came. And the brand has got to move beyond this personality to survive as a business. And that the influencers, unfortunately, are never willing to do, even if they know how to do, most of them.
But you must give credit to them that almost all influencers, almost all, are able to use their popularity to move the stocks off the shelves or whatever
At the start,
online
yes.
platforms.
Yeah, every podcast are selling some merchandise or the other, selling tickets. At least they have sponsors. Yeah.
Correct. But okay, fair. So I think enough talk about brands that have not worked
Hmm.
or what can go wrong.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about which influencer led brands or launch brands do you think have worked and what can we learn from?
I'm a big fan of HRX and culture. So I can going back there because there are very few success cases, success stories like that. Because these brands work not just because they are from the celebrity or influencer. Hrithik Roshan stood for fitness. He always spoke about fitness. He has that 6-8 pack body he keeps talking about. In interviews, he talks about how controlled his diet is, how he needs to have his protein shake. So he's a fitness oriented person. And therefore, the brand fitment was perfect. And what's happened is that the business has leveraged his equity to go past what his equity can bring to the business. So it's now, even if you remove Hrithik Roshan from there, CultFit and HRX would still survive. And they've gone into creating fitness products. They want to become like the Decathlon. I remember reading in the Ken sometime back. They're launching shoes and other fitness sports equipment, which they're selling via their network of fitness centers, which I think is brilliant. And this is primarily because it is not just a side hustle for the celebrity. It is a team of businessmen running their business and using every leverage they can to amplify their success.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I think you summed it up nicely towards the end that it is not a celebrity's side hustle, but a fair of business savvy people running the business, utilizing celebrities' initial popularity to possibly make it reach many more audiences, and then running it like a business, running it like a proper business.
Making it greater than the sum of the parts because of what they bring to the table, the infrastructure, the knowledge.
Okay, fair. Almost seems like there was a missed opportunity on account of maybe a John Abraham or a Milind Soman.
Maybe, but did they have as much reach as Hrithik?
Not reach, but great credibility on fitness.
Oh, absolutely. They could have. Absolutely could. They still can, actually. There's
Yeah, they still
space for
can.
more
They're
than
in a
one brand in the category.
they endorse a lot of brands in the right space. But yeah, like you're rightly saying, can't be a side hustle. They have to have a team that will run this through and through.
Yeah.
So now, since you spoke about team, business team, etc., we're very clear that, and it is fairly obvious that most of these influencers would not know anything about running many parts of the business, supply chain, sales and distribution, finance. They might know PR, they might know marketing a little bit, but others might be, fair amount of Greek and Latin for them. So, and and I know I'm giving you the fodder now. So why must people expect them to succeed in the first place?
People shouldn't expect them to succeed unless they partner with business experts, people who know what they're doing. So, Hrithik, like I said, he didn't just build HRX alone. He had a team of business experts backing him. When a lot of the influencers try to do everything on their own. And that is when we get things like Prime, overpriced, mediocre products that don't last. Have you tasted Prime? It's like really bad. It's like coconut water with something really bad in it.
You think my sons would let me have it after, not that I had very burning desire of consuming the product, but they didn't let me have any.
But the whole point is it's anchored to their ego. It doesn't move away at all from them.
Okay. And so what is the asset test that if a celebrity moves away, the brand must still survive?
Yes, actually, that's a very good point. If without the influencer, if the business and the brand can survive, then that is the proof of having built a business, an influencer building a business. Now, I'm not sure if Mr. Beast, for all his maturity and all his fame, if he stopped making videos, if it will continue to sell the way it does. However, people said the same thing about Steve Jobs. While Apple hasn't innovated after Steve Jobs as much as Jobs did, business has continued to grow. It's not just about that one personality. While he is a cult personality, the business is always bigger than him. And that is the proof of building a business.
When I double clicked on Mr. Beast's business, one of the things that I also understood was that he's done a lot of things. So one is festivals. He also has some Mr. Beast burger.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, one of the reasons also he is selling some of this stuff is because of the purpose behind it.
Hmm.
Right? Now, Apple succeeds because of the purpose, because it makes things for creative people and lets them express their creative in the best possible manner. Similarly, Mr. Beast in that podcast articulated that the entire set of money that he earns from these completely goes towards social service.
You know how I feel about this purpose-driven brands, right? I'm not sure they will survive. How much will you really choose a burger because it'll help somebody? You want a treat. You want to indulge yourself.
Correct.
That's how you choose a burger.
No, I'm saying if the product is half good and it aligns with your influencer who's trying to do a good thing, you might possibly give him a chance.
You might, yes. But will it scale? Is it that's what gives you the first early adopters? Now, will it scale with a half good product? I'm not sure.
No,
I don't think
not
it will.
with half good product. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now, we are almost suggesting that influencers or celebrities must get into what we can call as licensing. Yeah?
Yes.
So isn't that a better model then, rather than trying to build things on your own?
Absolutely it is, because it is lesser risk, because you know what you're doing and you have the experts come and fill in what they know how to do. And you are staying out of each other's, and licensing, which is what we started off with talking about, endorsements, licensing comes in when you want to leverage your equity for another business to sell their products. And when you do that, or the other one is to solve a problem. You say, like Rahana did, saying there is not enough quality beauty products for women of color. So I will create it. So that if you do one of these two, then you are on the path to success. I will still not say sure shot, on the path to success. And the thing with licensing is that it lowers your risk. Because for you, you're licensing it. Let's say you are licensing your brand of Mr. Sudeep Chawla to a marathon company, and that marathon fails to take off. It will never really fail with your name on it. But if it did, it really wouldn't hurt you. And the people have attempted a business and they have other things going on, so they will still manage. So the risk is distributed. But the question is, if this is such a commonsensical thing, why don't people do it? Because it is because of their ego, like I mentioned. Two things. They don't want their brand to be dissociated from themselves. And two, everybody in the startup world thinks they are going to get a big exit. But the fundamental truth is that if the business cannot stand without you, then it has no real value to say anybody who acquires that business. But in wanting to have everything for themselves, they believe they can build the business, and that is where the problem starts.
So the risk versus return,
absolutely,
kind of greed.
The greed,
them. Okay.
Greed and ego.
No, in fact, there was one more angle that I can think of. I was watching this series called Follow Karlo Yaar on Netflix. I hadn't thought, I wasn't exposed too much to this influencer called Urfi Javed. Now, and the only reference I had to her was that she wears some weird clothes.
Yeah, that's the only reference I have to her too.
But I stumbled across this on this series, and she comes across as a fairly sensible girl. Right? She has crafted her public persona very, very well. And she does all of these stunts, etc., etc. She has created a revenue stream for herself. But she's fiercely competitive, fairly sharp, very clear, etc. So I was quite surprised. More importantly, this series talks about her drive to become an entrepreneur. And she's desperate to, she finds a business deal. She's consulting people how to create the brand, etc., etc. I think recently she put up a Instagram post that her partner, who was supposed to be from the business side, kind of, went away, and therefore that dream is not taking off. But,
Mhm.
why did she want to become an entrepreneur? She said that becoming an entrepreneur will get me the respect that I deserve.
Wow. She wants to be an entrepreneur to
Yeah.
be a better personal brand.
Yeah. She said that I am popular, but I'm not respected. Being an entrepreneur will get me the respect that I deserve.
That's great clarity.
Yeah, excellent clarity. And it tells me that, entrepreneurship means different thing to different people.
Different people.
So this could also be one of the reasons why many of them want to turn entrepreneurs and do everything on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that if you're that clear, then you know who to engage for different things. You will not
Correct.
take everything on yourself.
Correct.
And that's
Yeah.
what I believe she's doing right.
Yeah, she's doing
Towards-
right. That was, I was quite impressed. So on that note, since you threw down the gauntlet and you stuck by it, let me do some rapid fire with you. Influencers, entrepreneurs, good idea, bad idea?
Mostly bad idea,
Okay.
unless they have the right team to work with.
Prime, hype or real brand?
Absolute hype will not
Okay.
survive.
Best influencer turned entrepreneur?
Shahana, Ritik, for sure.
Okay. If an influencer comes to you, a YouTube influencer, and says they want to launch their brand, what's your advice?
First, find a problem to solve. If you are just selling your name, then you've already lost. You're not making it. If there is a problem to solve and you believe your equity can help solve that problem better, definitely go for it.
Okay, excellent. Good. Some very good points made, Sharan. I think this was quite enjoyable. All hope is not lost for the influencers. Sharan began on a note where he said that most likely people won't succeed, but he has given everybody the key to success, which is specifically about, getting into entrepreneurship because you want to solve a problem, not just sell your name. And number two, find functional experts who can work alongside you and build a brand. And finally, the asset test for the brand is that it should survive, and not just survive, but maybe thrive even after the celebrity moves away or the endorser moves away.
Absolutely.
So you take care of all these three, Sharan will guarantee that your brand will work. Otherwise, you can always go to Vitral and sue him.
CoBB ki guarantee.
CoBB ki guarantee. Correct.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net.